solid team. And out in the Daytona area, I would say Spruce Creek is a team to watch also.
Yeah, Spruce Creek should be pretty good. Mainland, usually a solid team as well. St. Augustine's usually solid, and that's a little further north of Daytona.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know St. Augustine's a team like I said, I know it's too early, but I just don't know enough about St. Augustine right now. But St. Augustine's always been a powerhouse in football, so I believe they will still have a pretty solid season.
Ponte Vedra should be decent as well.
Yeah, Ponte Vedra they've had some really good years in the last 5 to 6 years. I would say they've had some playoff runs. Now going further out west, Bradford is one team I would not sleep on as well. Bradford, I believe, will have a pretty good season. Last year, they looked pretty good, I think, despite how they finished. But they have a great talent pool out there. Columbia will be pretty good, I think, again this year. I believe they'll be bound to go far in the playoffs as well. Down in the Gainesville area, I would say Buchholz and Santa Fe. Those two will maybe have a good run. They've had some pretty good years. I mean, I know last year in that Gainesville area, it looked pretty rough for a lot of those teams, but I feel like Buchholz and Santa Fe will be the two that really stand out there. Who else? Madison County, which is a lot further out. I think they'll be pretty good again this year. They'll probably be out. They'll probably go to the state championship again next season. They've had really good runs in the past, and they're just a great small 1A school. They're probably like one of the best small school football teams in all of the state of Florida, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely the most consistent 1A school for pretty much the entire decade. They've been good pretty much throughout. That you're right about Gainesville area with Buchholz. My early indications from the people I've spoken to is that Buchholz is supposed to be the best team in like the Gainesville city limits this year. Eastside and Gainesville could be decent, but in terms of it, Buchholz will probably be the one that wins that city championship. In Alachua County, also Hawthorne is a team that I've heard some good things about. And up in Columbia County, definitely Columbia should be solid. The biggest question just remains is how do they replace Jordan Smith? Because obviously receiver, Marquez Bell's a very good receiver, but there was a lot of depth at receiver. Camille's definitely a top-notch defender, but there is depth on defense. The question is the depth there at quarterback? Ironically, there is a sophomore quarterback down at Fort White that has them primed to be a potential threat in 1A. So they should be a team worth watching as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's just Columbia's talent pool, man. It's just big out there. There's got to be something going on out there in Lake City, because their talent is just amazing, and they have potential to win state in the future too. With just the teams they've been having the last few years, they've just been looking really great, and their head coach out there, they got a great head coach as well.
Imagine how deadly they'd be if it was one high school like it was in the late 90s.
Yeah, that would be. They'd have. That's just those 90s teams they were monstrous teams as well.
They probably wouldn't have to worry about constantly losing to Lee twice a year if they had all the Columbia County talent.
Yes, and I've said this before too. Those Columbia League games are some of the big. I would say it attracts a lot of attention too, and it's, in my opinion, in the past 5 years or so, it's been more like an out-of-county rivalry between those two, because every time those two play, it's always a big deal, and on the field, there's a lot of stuff that goes on between both of them. A lot of, I think, animosity, I would say. But it's a great game to go watch, though.
Obviously, there's been a lot of good Columbia teams, and then the league teams the last few years have been very good, which actually brings us to the topic that we'll probably spend the rest of the show on. Right now, obviously, I was building this tournament for two reasons. One, I wanted to have something just in the worst case scenario, if there is no season, something to be able to talk football about for the length of the season. But also, even if we do have a season, I definitely want to move myself into this tournament down the road. I'm right now currently building a tournament from 1963 to this past year, 2019, of 8 brackets of 68, and it's basically building a greatest of all time tournament for the state of Florida. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of teams worth looking at, especially in Northeast Florida. I guess we'll just start with, I know you did a tournament recently on your Twitter with from the 21st century, which would have been, I believe, 2000 onward. What were some like teams that you would say off the gate, just from that tournament, or teams that you considered that would be worth mentioning in terms of a statewide greatest of all time tournament?
Oh, so you're saying like the teams I've had for my tournament, what could go on yours?
Yeah.
I've got I'll give you a few. One of them for sure in the St. Johns County, 2005 St. Augustine, 2005 Nice, which were, I think they both won state that year.
They did.
Those two teams were just very fantastic teams. They're definitely one of the best in the whole state in history. There's no question. 2011 First Coast, where they almost went to state. That's a team I would put on there as well. They were just a very, very, very good team. 2018 Mandarin is one of the greatest of all time. That team was just they had a really monstrous team. That was probably the best team ever in Mandarin history, I would say.
That was also the first public school in Northeast Florida to actually win a state championship in the largest classification in state history. Yeah,
for sure, because them and Raines were the only two schools to ever win a state championship in FHSAA, the modern era for actually I think it was the most ever. Only two schools ever to do it since DCPS has been around, I believe.
In the playoff era, they're the only two that have ever won.
Right. 2004 Bulls, undefeated season, 15-0. They were really great. That's a team I would put on there. 2015 Trinity Christian is definitely one to put down. They were just a really, really strong team as well. Got a few more to put down. 2003 Clay. They didn't make state, but that was definitely one of Clay's best football teams as well. They had Cliff Averill on the team, who was one of the best players. 2011 Bulls. They finished 14-1. They had a really great year. That's a team I'd also put down. 2017 Raines, even 2018 Raines, those were both really great teams, both state champs. 2017 Bartram Trail is one to put down as well. They went to state, but I believe they didn't win that because I think that was the game they lost to Venice, which was the state championship game. But they had a really great team that year as well, and Joey Gateway was the quarterback, so that's one team to put down as well. Another team I will put down is 2001 Andrew Jackson. The Tigers, I think that was one of the Tigers' best seasons yet. They finished 11-2. They were just a big monstrous team as well. 2014 Godby is a team I'd put down from Tallahassee. 12-3 record. I believe they won state that year as well. That was one of Godby's best teams. And then one more I would definitely recommend putting down is 2011 Fletcher was one of Duval County area's best teams in a while as well. And Fletcher's always had a pretty good talent pool, especially in the last decade. They might not have won state, but they had a really great team that year as well.
I'll definitely have to look into them. It was actually interesting when you brought up 2003 Clay and 2001 Andrew Jackson. Columbia actually played and beat both of them in those seasons. Clay, they beat them 27-19 that year, in a year that Columbia lost to the Final Four to Lake Gibson. And in 2001, they beat Andrew Jackson in the playoffs, 41-19, before they lost to eventual state champions Lincoln. So
Right.
there's definitely some history there between those schools.
Yeah, there is. There's just been a lot of great teams in the Northeast Florida area, but you gotta look further out too, in like some of the smaller towns and stuff where they've had good teams in the past, whether they made state or not. You gotta look at how strong those rosters were. How the coaching staff was. Looking at their overalls, it was just. There's been a lot of history in this 21st century where, despite not being as many state championships up here, like public schools are not. They've always had some of the best talent, I believe, also compared to Miami.
The biggest thing when I look at Jacksonville versus Miami is the fact that Miami, the talent is so concentrated. Like not only is it a much larger county, because you're looking at a county with Duval County at about 950,000, and Dade County, I believe, is around 3 million. But the talent seems to be more concentrated in Miami areas, because, like in Jacksonville, at least at least last year and now this year, it seems like the talent is almost spread out almost evenly across most of the schools. In Dade County, a lot of the major talent ends up at a very select few schools, with like the Miami Centrals, the Miami Northwesterns, Carroll City, Booker T, Columbus, Gulliver. Like, you're basically looking at a very tight window of teams that probably to make up, I would say, at least probably 20 to 30% of the top level talent in Dade County in general.
Yeah, actually, Jacksonville's more popular than Miami is, but Miami just has a lot more schools than Duval County does.
Well,
because Jacksonville's such a spread out town, Miami's always they just had more public and private schools, and the talent is just, they end up at some of those big name schools that are really good at football.
The thing you have to remember, though, if we want to get technical with it, the reason that Jacksonville is a larger actual city is because they actually assigned the entire county to being in the city limits, while Miami, they have various different cities spread out across the entire county. You got Homestead is its own city. Obviously Miami Beach.
That's true. You're right.
Trying to think. Hialeah, that's another one. Hialeah is a pretty big area as well.
But yeah, there's just something down there in Miami, man. With those teams, they're just spectacular. It's the same teams usually that are just solid, and they're always going to state or going far in those playoffs. But depending on how the coronavirus thing happens, who knows if there's going to be a Miami school winning a state championship, And then we'll just have to see from there. But I definitely, like I said, it's too early to predict now with the seasons and who's going to be really good at what. But that's my predictions as of now of who's going to go far with the playoffs or with their teams. Who might make it, who won't. It's just hard to say right now, just because of with the coronavirus and not getting enough news or transfer news. Right now.
All right. And we'll close it up there, folks. We'll definitely we were glad to have a special guest on today, and we'll probably try to set up some more shows in the future, because I guess we have to make up for lost time, since we had no shows between February until last week. So we're definitely going to be trying to put out a lot more shows over the next few weeks to try to basically make up for us not having the show for so long. But thank you for joining us on today.
Oh yeah, it's definitely fun being on here, and hopefully the next time I'm on, there'll be more news to report, more good stuff, and I'll have an accurate, list of what teams to look at, that's if the season definitely happens for sure.
All right, and that's all